Hello, my name is Tylluan Penry. I'm a solitary pagan witch and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press, and I'm coming to you today to have a little chat about the sort of things that you put in your magical journal or book of shadows. One of my favourite things to go in there is not actually magic spells. I mean, you do put spells in there and it's important that you record them, but I think we need to get away from the idea that magical journals and books of shadows are only about spells, because they're not. They're about how our thinking works. Because if we think of this as a spiritual path, and it doesn't really matter what path you find yourself on, whether it's Wicca or heathen or druid or whatever, the point is that your spiritual path is very much affected by the way you approach it and the way you think. So one of the things I've found the most useful to put in my book of shadows are proverbs and sayings, maxims if you like. These are very short and I maybe only record a couple a year. Where do you find them? Well, in my day they were things that people said. They were things that you read. You can actually get a dictionary of quotations in the library if you feel inclined. You can even find them on Facebook. People will put up little posts of sayings, and they sound very clever when you read them first of all. One little word of advice though, do be careful that when you find them on Facebook, quite often they're attributed to people like Mark Twain or Einstein or whoever, and actually they're not. So you do need to have a little look around, and it does matter because a badly attributed quotation is obviously going to affect the way you think about it. But I want to give you an example of how I used a quotation once. A couple of years back, I came across a quotation that said, "Turn your face to the sun and the shadows fall behind you." And it sounds wonderful. And I wrote it down, and if my memory serves, I even did a little drawing of somebody, a little stick figure standing there in the sun with a shadow behind them. But as I began to think about it, and this is the important thing, you do need to think about it. Don't just accept things at face value. We should never do that. As I began to think about it, I began to realise that actually this is not as marvellous as it sounds. And the reason for this is because if the shadows fall behind you, it means that no matter where you go, your shadows, your inner shadows, whatever your particular demons are, they are following you. Now, do we really want to be looking over our shoulder all the time at shadows? I don't think so. I think this is the last place they should be. So I came to realise that although it's very nice to be standing there with the sun on our faces, metaphorically speaking, there are times when you really do have to turn your back on the sunshine and confront these shadows. Cut them down to size. How do we do that? Well, to me, it's all about balance. We need to get a balance on our path. Sunshine is lovely, but shadows are something we need to look at. Sometimes a shadow seems enormous, and actually there's nothing there when you look at it. But this is important. Oh, hang on. That's our clock. It's about to strike the hour. It should be striking 1 o'clock. This being the Penry household, it's highly unlikely. So bear with me and we'll have a quick listen to what goes on here. Well, that's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. Well, there we are, 8 o'clock according to the chimes. It is in fact 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, I was talking about cutting shadows down to size. It is important. We do have to get a sense of perspective. And this was what I learned. I wrote down that little quote in my book and I thought, oh, this is wonderful. This is a real maxim that I can live by. But as the months progressed and as I began to think about it, I realised, no, I cannot live by that maxim unless I modify it. So yes, turning your face to the sun is wonderful from time to time. But there are times when we have to turn our backs to the sun and look at what's behind us. And this is the sort of stuff that should be going into your magical journal, because this is the kind of thought process that helps you to make spiritual progress on your chosen pagan path. Well, that's plenty to be thinking of for this little talk. So, thank you for listening and goodbye.